So we're about to get into El Alquimista, Paulo Coelho, South American author, Spanish and English translation for the Moorish alchemists. This is part 44, reading of this book with your boy Marcoelboriken, moorsoflight.com. Check that out. So, very short reading. I felt compelled to do two in one day today, so let's do it. It says, El muchacho abrió los ojos cuando el sol empezaba a aparecer en el horizonte. Santiago, the young man, started to open his eyes when the sun was starting to show upon the horizon. Delante de él, donde las pequeñas estrellas habían estado durante la noche, se extendía una hilera interminable de palmeras datileras cubriendo todo el frente del desierto. In front of him, where there had been small stars throughout the nights, there extended an endless hive of date palms, like palm trees or date plants, covering the front of a desert. Lo conseguimos, dijo el inglés, que también acababa de despertar. Let's get them, said the Englishman, and he had just woke up as well in that moment too. El muchacho, sin embargo, permanecía callado. Santiago, the young man, nonetheless, stayed silent. Había aprendido el silencio del desierto y contentábase con mirar las palmeras datileras que tenía ante sí. So he had learned the language of silence of the desert, and he satisfied himself with looking at the date trees that were in front of him. Todavía tenía que caminar mucho para llegar hasta las pirámides. Y algún día, aquella mañana, sería tan solo un recuerdo. He still had to walk a very long way to get to the pyramids. And that day, this particular morning, will soon only be just a memory. Pero ahora era el momento presente. But now was the present moment. La fiesta de la que ha hablado el camellero, y él estaba intentando vivirlo como las lesiones de su pasado y los sueños de su futuro. The festival that they had talked about, the camel driver, was trying to learn how to live these things like the lessons of his past and the dreams of his future. Un día aquella visión de millares de palmeras sería solamente un recuerdo. One day the vision of all of these palm trees would just be a memory. Pero para él, en este momento significaba sombra, agua y refugio para la guerra. But for him, this moment signified shade, water, a refuge from war. Así como un relincho de camello, podía transformarse en peligro. El ira de palmera podía significar un milagro. El mundo habla muchos lenguajes, pensó el muchacho. Just like the cry or the sound or the whining of a camel throughout the night can alarm you, the same way these date palm trees could also signify a miracle. El mundo habla muchos lenguajes. It says that the world speaks many different languages. And this is what Santiago was thinking at the end of this reading over here. So, we're going to continue on with Spanish and English for the Moorish Alchemist 45. Maybe later today, maybe tomorrow. I'm not sure. Today I'm on a hot streak with a lot of the vocabulary that's in here. And I guess the takeaway in this chapter would be carried over from the last one, pertaining to being present in the moment. So Santiago is learning how to essentially understand the language of just divinity and how creation has its place also within the desert itself, looking at just essentially understanding the language of nature, the language of precaution, and also learning how to actually speak a different language amongst Aramaic, Amazigh, Berber peoples. So it's really interesting in my opinion. Dates are mentioned here. I know that in Ramadan, one of the practices, or in general, when it comes to nutrition, when your body's reset from not eating, dates, grapes are used in the Islamic world to break fast, and that just makes sense from a nutrition standpoint, considering that, I mean, you would obviously want to fill your body up with the best nutrition and the best foods when it's on empty, opposed to something that's not so healthy. Which, if I was to speak on a personal note, why hence those in despair, like in homeless situations, are being fed all types of processed food, and it's not helping them get any much more apt to where they're supposed to really be at. So mentally and within their nutrition. But I think that's really about it. It's a really short chapter, and it's just really just about Santiago waking up from dusk to dawn in the middle of the desert, looking for his closest straightaway to the pyramids. He's just trying to get to the pyramids. But as of right now, they just made it to an oasis where there's a whole bunch of date trees, and we're about to get into some good literature come this next reading. So once again, it's your boy Marcoelboriken. Check out moorsoflight.com, all about empowerment and excellence, all the way from the Pacific Islands all the way to the Atlantic Islands. So I hope you guys enjoyed that short reading. This is the book right here, El Alquimista by Paulo Coelho. Get it in whatever language that you speak. He says, what is the main goal? What is the goal of the Moors? They've had many different contributions to society. The Moors at one time were warriors. They're still warriors today in the Philippines and in Jamaica and in South America. There's a lot of warrior race people consider themselves Maori or Moro. The Moors in history, from what we're taught, their purpose was to create law to create doctrines and law throughout the entire world, to civilize the entire world with laws and doctrine. And they had control for 700 years of the rivers and the waters all around Europe, all around North Africa and the Iberian Peninsula. If you look at it on the map, you'll see that France, Italy, England, Tunisia, Morocco, Spain, all of those places were all dominated by the Moors of history. However, it's a worldwide bloodline, but there really is no main goal for the Moors. But if I had to say personally, in my opinion, I would say that it's really just a whole uphold law and morality, because the ancestry goes deep. It goes all the way around the world to the Maghreb, Sri Lanka, South Asia, to India. There's Moors all over the planet. But that's a really good question. I really appreciate you asking that. What is the goal of the Moors? I guess today as well, it's really about self-determining, being able to stand on being a Moor. Like, there are people all over the planet like myself who, whether we say we're Moors or whether we say we're Moorish, we come from Moors. Whether we say we're Moorish by way of all this propaganda with race and mixing, some of us say that we're Moorish. Some of us say that we're Moors. So that's one of the biggest goals for Moors today. Yeah. So aside from self-determining today as a Moor, I saw a Moor building, and it felt spiritually inclined and peaceful. So, um, yeah, the Moors are known for all types of architecture. I mean, you could take it as far back as pyramids being built, like Nubian, Chumedian, ancient Egyptian societies. You could take it that far back, but obviously all those things are being left in mystery due to so much Eurocentricity and Euro dominance around the world. But the buildings were crafted by masons, all types of stonemasons, mathematicians, um, and scientists. So a lot of the mathematics that we're speaking today, the language of Urdu, the language of Arabic, the language of Aramaic, Ibri, Hebreo, Hebrew, Spanish, English, Portuguese, French, Dutch, all of those languages, those sciences, even the number system, they do come from Moorish people, whether they self-determined as Muslim, whether they self-determined as Ottoman, Egyptians, Arabs. A lot of those classifications and stuff, they didn't exist until Eurocentricity, until Euro dominance of the world and all of these military campaigns to separate us geographically, all around Asia and in the Western Hemisphere. But the buildings themselves, they do have healing properties. If you're really interested in that sort of stuff, you could look at Tartarian. Um, I don't want to say archaeology. Is it archaeology? No. Tartarian buildings. You just put Tartarian buildings. Tartarian. Tartary or Tartar buildings. A lot of the buildings that you see all around the world, all the buildings you see on the money and stuff like that, were constructed by scientists, mathematicians, engineers. Man, it's really escaping me, this word. This word is really escaping me. Just essentially, like, the builders of society. A lot of the Moors in America, I mean, I could talk about this all day. A lot of the Moors in America, they consider themselves to be from a race of mound building people. A lot of Moors consider themselves to be a part of a race of warriors, like I said, a race of inventors. So yeah, I really appreciate your comments. I saw a Moor building and I felt spiritually inclined and peaceful. That's exactly what that science and those technologies were made for. But obviously the Moors aren't running the world today. There was a time that they were. dominantly in the public realm. There was a time where Moors actually had dominion over everything in the mainstream, and it really had to do with, like those buildings that you're talking about, architecture. That's the word. Oh my God, I said archaeology. The architecture in those arcs. That's where the word even, it says it in the word architecture. Wherever there's arcs, wherever there's an Islamic influence or old world influence, it's considered by the Moors of today to be Moorish, like Moorish architecture, Moorish contributions, because it is a bloodline of people. Like I said, it's a worldwide bloodline of people. The Moors are actually mentioned as well in the Bible. So if you want to open up the Bible, they're mentioned as Moabites, Moabites. They're mentioned as Moabites. They have many different classifications according to somebody named Noble Drew Ali. He lump summed all of the Moors together. If you go today, you put the CDC website, you put Moors in there, you're going to see a whole bunch of American Indian and a whole bunch of barbarous and nomadic and indigenous autochthonous tribes that fall under the classification of Moors. But yeah, architecture is very, very much influenced by Islamic and Moorish cultures and custom, but unfortunately, religious leaders of today betrayed the Moors, stole a lot of the sciences, and they classify themselves as just straight up Muslims now, or straight up Jews now, or straight up Christians now, when really they all came from the same golden era of the Moors themselves. They all came out of the same knowledges, right, of the old world. So anything that's essentially encompassing of times prior to the calendar had to do with serious Moorish posterity. So I think I'm out of here after this comment here. Great comment. Thank you so much for that. That was awesome. If you have any more questions, just keep logging on with me. But just to give you a simple answer, the Moors helped establish civilization. That's the best way I can put it. They helped establish civilization with all types of sciences. So the alchemists and crescent moon in the back. I hope that I was able to answer your questions. If you have any more questions, let me know. But I'm out of here. That was Spanish and English for the Moorish Alchemist Part 4.